Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, Gadian, Christian, Michael, Rune Canary. Welcome. Welcome for this New York Open. First stream in a while. Should be something that I want to do every now and then, every month, ideally. And yeah, if the stream are fun and we find things of interest, I will try to make it something more regular. And yeah, at least one time per month would be sweet. But yeah, audio a tad low. Is it my voice or is it the music that is a little bit low? I can adjust both, even if the music doesn't have to be very loud. Mic should be decent, I would assume. But yeah, let me guys know. Voice, okay. Should be better that way. Should be better that way. I will try to speak louder if needed. But yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. So the goal of the stream is to discuss the market, do some questions, whatever you guys want to discuss, and see how things are developing. Basically, what I usually do in the Haven when I'm making these kind of streams is that we initially discuss Bitcoin first, main picture, especially if I have anything running, so I can make an update of my current positioning for anyone that might not be in the Haven. And then after that, we browse through recent potential trades. We can discuss these also if you guys want. And after that, chat requests and any questions you can have, do not hesitate to ask, basically. And yeah, basic stream, I would say, but we'll see eventually how it goes. In the future, I'm thinking about potentially bringing some guests, whether it's people you know from City or other analysts from the Haven. And we could do some dedicated streams on different subjects, can be ongoing narratives depending on what's happening in the market, can be just inviting another trader to discuss his trading and whatever questions you guys could have. Eventually we can also just do chat requests streams in the future. Today is going to be a mix of all of that without guests. Obviously it's just going to be me and my broken English. Sorry in advance for any English native speakers if I'm doing some mistakes. At the end, I'm just a baguette, so it's already a miracle if I can speak a little bit of English. But yeah, that's the overall goal. And ideally, we do that every month, at least one time per month. Especially knowing that I'm already streaming 2 times per week in the Haven, so obviously it depends on market activity, market conditions. There will be times like recently where in my system I'm not doing much, but still there is always things to discuss. And if you guys have any chat requests, it can be interesting. I usually really like to do chat requests in the Haven because it helps refining, adjusting the overall watch list that I have. Because as much as I'm spending a lot of time on CT and as much as I'm chronically online and addicted to CT, I'm still missing things from time to time. And I believe it's one of the main advantage of doing chat requests. It's also one of the main reason I open less than I used to, but I often try to ask for chat requests on CT because I will find some chats that I would have forgotten or never thought about watching, and find some setups. There is always something to trade in the market. So yeah, I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes for people to join, but that's the overall idea. We're gonna be live for at least 1 hour to see how the New York Open unfolds. And again, if you have any questions whatsoever, whether it's regarding the system, whether it's regarding trading, whatever, you can ask questions. The more questions, the better, basically. How are you? I'm fine. A little bit tired, surprisingly, but I'm fine. It's the February is usually the month where I'm doing less ski because it's the French holidays, so it's filled with tourists. So I'm trying to spend less time in the Alps. So doing fine. A bit bored, not gonna lie. We're gonna discuss the market right after, but Yeah, pretty bold. Pretty bold. We've been in the same range since early December, basically. For me, the main indicator that we could get some ranging behavior arrived mid December when we finally broke the daily trend for the first time since the US election. Was pretty well defended from the low 60s all the way up to 90s, and we got the first break. The confirmation for me happened when we got this first deviation, quick attempt to reclaim it into instantly failing to do so, which is usually what I call, to me, it's usually a signal of trend being disrespected. We can see that on H4 also recently with strong trend back above trend, fail to flip it, try to reclaim it, fail to flip it, usually is a strong signal of chop fest. Obviously, if you have an indicator that you find strong as at highlighting trends, should be as good to highlight the lack of it. But yeah, to me, these were the first early signs of conditions getting shittier, and unfortunately, it has unfolded over the past 2 months. So yeah, that's pretty much the main story. Maybe we can just start with Bitcoin, and we'll see if you guys have any questions and things like this. I can discuss things that I have running. I'm just gonna say ideally asking chat if possible. For chat request, whether instead of asking on Twitter, I'm not gonna be watching Twitter much during the stream. Do you think we go higher here from seller swap? I think yesterday's news from Taylor likely avoided us from losing our H4 range that we've been in since basically since the move off of tariffs and the move from early February. I believe it's what obviously led us to defend this range low after closing right below yesterday. Now, is it enough as a narrative to push us higher in the short term? Hard to say. Hard to say. Obviously, knowing that Sailor is back at beating the markets, at least for the 2 billion that we got the news for yesterday, obviously is a good thing. I think Mercury made a post about it earlier today on Twitter, or it was yesterday, saying that it was kind of a litmus test for the markets and for Bitcoin to see if yeah, that was this post from Mercury. Very good account to follow. If you're not following Mercury yet, I think you should. We have very similar systems and overall philosophy around the market. I believe he's a much better swing trader than me, but that's another subject. But yeah, good litmus test to know. Yeah, I agree with him on many points. I think it's gonna be interesting. It's complicated to say if I believe it's gonna go up, but at the very least, yeah, if we can't find some strength around the market, considering that the news regarding Trump have been impacting us less and less, I would say it smells like shit. And by smelling like shit, to me that would mean that we have higher chances to fill the gap to daily 200 EMA instead of daily 200 EMA filling the gap itself. So it's a good test for the market. My main conclusion when I'm watching this chart is chop fest. So to me, when we have lack of trend, we usually fill gaps. And what I mean by filling gaps, it's whenever we lost a strong trend, we inevitably retest 100 MA and 200 EMA. Can be only one of the two. Last year gap fill to daily 100 MA in January was pretty clean. Strong trend breaks, flips resistance, fill the gap to 100 MA. We did it also in the range from last year, but obviously as in a ranging territories, it was less clean. So basically, to me, the main ID short term, until we can get back above 98, 99K, so the upper side of the range, my two main IDs is whether we consolidate and chop fast for a much longer time while daily 100 MA catches up with the range low. And if we get a retest of both, it's a nice confluence. Or if we lose recent consolidation and fill the gap to daily 200 MA. So the two ways of filling gaps is either by the moving average itself catching up with price, which usually means chop fast, or the price catching down with the moving average. These are my two main conclusions short term. And if we start spending some time above all the resistance we've been stuck in since early February, so basically 98, 99, 98K, 98, 99K, sorry. In that case, I think we revisit the range high. At the very least, the level from January is 101.5, 103. Is it going to be fueled by seller bids? I hope so for the market. I would say it can't hurt. It can't hurt to know that you have the mad lad willing to continue buying at these prices. I don't think he cares much about prices anyway, but yeah. So who asked the question? Ruben, to answer your question, complicated. I would say it's a very good test for the market. If this can get us some traction, I would be even more inclined to expect a daily 200 EMA gap fill. If we start pushing through 80, 98, 99K, at the very least, I think it helps us sticking in the range while we consolidate for longer. Solen hype overview. We are going to go through Solen hype. Yeah, extremely likely, especially considering that I've got a swing on Sol that I round tripped for half of the position yesterday. So it can be interesting to discuss it. We're gonna discuss. Actually, you know what? I will do exactly like I do in the Haven. I'm gonna take the tickers that are asked and we're gonna go through them. Not necessarily going to be going in extreme details for each of them, depending on what we see. But that way, I'm sure I'm gonna try to cover as many as possible. So yeah, let's start the stream with my overview of Bitcoin. As I told you, so first of all, this is my main position on Bitcoin. It's been the same one since October. It's a swing that's a classic in my system. We can discuss that rapidly, but basically, I have three main kind of trades. The first one, which is the one I like the most and the one I've tried to focus the most on, is EMA compressions after a period of consolidation, especially on assets like Bitcoin, like this one. Usually is a good indicator of the past trend that has fully reset. And if you get the confluence of a compression plus some external news, this usually leads to some trendy behavior after that. If the compression is lost and flip resistance, you can swing to the other way. If it's still defended and you get a daily trend retest after that, usually you have a good swing to ride. So EMA compression, classic just trend following, basically just either longing or shorting until the trend is lost. And gap fills, as I said earlier, where basically your main goal is to try to capture some reversal of the previous trend you rode, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, doesn't matter much. It's the overall same idea. Basically just catching up on trying to catch both sides of the trend. So yeah, this is still my main exposure on Bitcoin. And as you can see, as I told you at the beginning of the stream, the first time we started to lose the trend in mid-December triggered a target fall for me, which means that at this point I had less than 50% running, and the main conclusion was we lost the daily trend. It's not respected anymore. At the very least, I'm expecting us to chop fast and or fill the gaps to daily 100 MA. So I'm gonna be taking some off and letting things unfold until we get either a new daily trend to ride, either a gap fills into 100 MA or 200 MA. So as of now, as of today, this is still my primary position on Bitcoin. This swing long from the low 60s, I'm holding half of it. I missed this move from early February because it happened during the night between Sunday and Monday, and I was actually sleeping. So I was not able to take advantage of the week into daily 100 MA and bounce into 6 digits. So yeah, I've been pretty much doing nothing when it comes to Bitcoin. So that's the overall range without the trade beside. I think it's a fairly obvious range. I would expect most market participants to watch the exact same levels than I do. As you can see, indeed, daily trend is respected at the middle of the range. And yeah, what would make me make some moves at this point? My main strategy is to just do nothing as long as we're in this region, in Bitcoin at least, mostly because fuck it, I'm just not gonna get chopped for nothing. PTSD is way too strong from the past to try playing that game. I know my limits. I know what I should be participating in or not. And that's also one of the main reasons I ended up with this system is that, again, as I said, if it's good to highlight trending behavior, it should be good to highlight lack of it. So yeah, what would make me be willing to compound or cut more of the exposure I have? At this point, it would be either to the upside in a perfect world where we break through the range high and print the defended daily trend. Could be seen a little bit like this kind of behavior, which we have not been able to do inside this range since mid-December. So that would be the upside scenario. And the downside scenario is a daily 200 EMA retest. How would I play it? Extremely likely that I let the retest happen first. One of the main reasons for that is that otherwise I wouldn't know if and how I want to place my invalidation off of it on the compounding. If defended, I want to play with it. Could play on lower time frame through the day if/when it happens. But yeah, basically either a new daily trend behavior, either a daily 200 EMA retest and defense. And if we can't defend that, especially considering that it's now in confluence with the 80s, I would likely trigger more take profit from the swing from the 60s. Up until then, my main strategy is to not get bullied. And if you have not been bullied by Bitcoin over the past month, I think it's already a win, to be honest. So that's my overall view when it comes to Bitcoin. Nothing fancy, nothing pretty. I would assume nothing very original, especially if you've been following my content for some time. If you, yeah, that should be pretty straightforward. A quick word on H4. So that's from yesterday's stream in the Haven. It's pretty much the same story than on Bitcoin, but it's just a range within the range. Same range that we basically built post bounce. It's been the same main focuses. And yeah, with an H4 trend disrespected in the middle, 94, 95 to hold, 98, 98, 99 to break. Again, pretty classic. So I think we can move on to some shit coins. We can do Lido, we can do ETH, but yeah. XEC is not on my watch list, but we can take a look at that if you want. Hi Pierre, happy you're streaming publicly on YouTube. Yeah, nice. Thanks, mate. It's a first, and to be honest, it's a first, but it's something I already do, and I've already been doing for more than 2 years now, two times per week. So I kind of feel like comfortable doing those kind of streams. It's just that, yeah, I kinda gave up on CTE over the last year, seeing how things were developing. I just didn't want it to participate much in that. But also you can't spend time complaining about the state of a community you are part of if you are not trying to fix it. So yeah, let's make City great again. Let's make City about trading, about education, and about sharing charts, sharing ideas instead of rugging people with the help of a president. Hello, police. How are you, mate? I on the list of people I want to stream with some days in here. For anyone that's potentially missed the stream we did together with police last week for Valentine, I think you can find the replay of the stream directly in his account, on his Twitch account, and he's actually live. I don't know if he's live now, and and I'm kind of stepping on his bands, or if it's not live, but same as Mercury, a very good account to follow, very good lad. Go check the Twitch replays and go watch his streams. Very interesting. A much more price action based approach than I mean, classic price action is a main core of my approach, obviously, combined with trending indicators. But yeah, he has a much more main style approach of the market, I would say, for anyone that knows main. No, he multi-taking. Okay, he's multi-taking last day. Okay. Hello, Hyper Raver. What platform do you use to trade perp? It's getting more and more complicated to trade perp as a baguette citizen. I used to trade on Binance, then Bybit, Hype. I've been trading on Hype a lot. A combination of Hype and Woo, depending on what I want to trade and the overall liquidity available. However, a shitload of my trading is done through spot on Binance and a mix of Kraken. I would assume, like many people, I have a strong PTSD, FTX PTSD, even if I didn't lose much in the process, but the overall situation has, I believe, left scars for every people, and I try to have funds dispersed as much as possible. But yeah, it's mostly Hype and Woo, basically, where I'm still allowed to do so. Hyper Raver. Timothy, sorry. I was asking, how can you determine when your trend system isn't working and focus on range instead? Often I would enter an H4 trend reclaim only for it to fail, then trade below, and I get chopped continuously. It's not a rule that has to be set in stone. But basically for me, as soon as we have a failure to reclaim a trend after a strong trend, whether it's uptrend or downtrend, like this example on H4, you have a strong H4 downtrend that defended for a few days. You get an attempt to reclaim it and it fails instantly. To me, the outcome of that is two situations. Either trend continuation, so basically that was a fake out and we get a continuation of the H4 trend, or chop fest, meaning that if it comes again for a reclaim, I just don't trust it and I'm expecting chop fest. And you can see it also fairly well. I think the recent daily chart on Bitcoin is a fantastic example of that. With what I said at the beginning of the stream, first daily trend break after a very strong move, basically 62k to 90k, 50% move. Attempt to reclaim it, instantly fail, and to me, it's a strong signal of chop fest, or at the very least, it's a very strong signal of a change of behavior. Simply because up until this point, the trend was very well respected. We had a little bit of some fake outs below 13 EMA, but it was always rapidly bought up. So to me, it's more the way I see it. Albion is I consider a market to be in a trending behavior when it's defending the trend. As simple as that. Therefore, the one minus that is basically as soon as the trend is disrespected, I treat it as a signal to, at the very least, trade less, reduce risk, approach the market with a less, expecting the market to be less forgivable, basically. And you can apply that to any time frames. I'm personally more focused on H4 and daily time frames. And maybe over time you find a rule that works better for you, and maybe you consider that 2 attempts or 1 attempt fail is enough to get the fuck out. For me, it's 1 failure after strong trending behavior, and I'm out. The same way that when we have a chop fest territories, and Hype has been a very good example of that on H4, when we have incapacity to defend H4 trend plus flat moving averages, to me it's obviously it's strong chop fest signal, and I think we can see it with my recent Hype trades. Initially got stopped out. I was willing to give it a shot on the H4 100 MA reclaim, as it acted as a strong support initially. Instantly fails, get back above, I'm giving it a shot. a second one, gives target one, compound, gives target one, fails again. To me, it was okay. That means I'm just gonna get chop fast if I continue giving this a shot. We lack clarity in terms of trends. So just okay, stop trading it, letting develop, and this is what's written on my chart. Wait for H4 trend defended finally to re-enter. So as simple as if the trending indicator I'm using is not respected anymore, it's just enough for me to consider it trendless. I think it's something important to know about me is that I consider myself as the main representative of the mid-curve traders, and it's not the job you think it is. It's actually I think it's important to know it. It's important to know that you're not necessarily, and you don't have to be the chat trader that you see on your timeline. Not everyone can read lower time frame charts, or not everyone can have the gut feeling of a Nexus. Not everyone can trade like Loma. It's fine as long as you don't pretend to be another person you actually are. And that's why I ended up with a very simple system based on horizontal levels and a couple of imaginary lines, because it's the only way for me to know that I won't fight the system. I won't let my mid-curve brain fight what's been working and what's been good ways to avoid being bullied, a good way to take profits on the way up, a good way to not run trip too much. We're gonna see that I still fuck things up. Like we can see it with this Solana trade. And it's the absolute proof of me not respecting the system, and it ends badly. But yeah, that's basically that. That's why I try to have a system as simple as possible, because otherwise I know I'm gonna fuck things up in the middle. TAO, TRX, and then we're gonna start the chat request. Otherwise, it's gonna be a 15-hour stream. We will be able to watch this stream back after. Yeah, it should be public and it should be available. I will double check after the stream, but should be good. You should be able to watch the stream after that. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to scalp trade Bitcoin? Don't listen what I'm saying, because I'm not particularly known to be a good scalper, let alone Bitcoin. Again, as you can see, I'm much more of a swing trader and trend momentum trader, which is the opposite of range trading, where you should be more focused on scalping, I believe, at least. So I won't pretend that I have strong advices to give you in terms of how to scalp Bitcoin in itself. If you ask me what advices I would give to someone trying to trend and wait for swings on Bitcoin, we can discuss many things. We can discuss EMA compression systems. We can discuss daily trend defended. But in terms of scalps, I won't pretend that I have the expertise or knowledge to advise you on that. Outside of the very basic kind of advices, such as being a heavily take profit approach, leaving room for good feeling, eyes on SPX, especially on strong correlation days. But again, I won't pretend that I'm the best one to go for when it comes to scalping. I do scalp. I do try to get better at it, but again, I know my limits. When I do, I usually do with vastly less risks than I usually do on other trades and other trending behavior kind of chase. How do you filter screen to decide which charts to look at? It's usually a combination of what I see on my feed and what the recent usual trends can be. Just classic browsing Binance, seeing which pairs, where is the most volume, which what's moving the most. So a combination of social networks, what's being said on Twitter, but also what's being discussed on the Aven. For me, it's a fantastic tool because, as I was saying at the beginning of the stream, one of the reasons I like to do chat requests is because as much as you can spend time on CT, it's very easy to miss narratives and or to be too lazy and complacent to even look at them and miss some obvious trades over there. And that's why I think chat requests are good for that, because they force you to watch parts of the market you would not necessarily always check. So it's a mix of all of that. Chat requests are usually a good way to do so. And then, well, as soon as I have my watch list made, you can also, I don't know if Sandwich is still working for that, but you, okay, it's not on that training view, but you could have access to lists of trading view list of assets from each exchanges, where you can then easily browse through your watch list, what's green, what's red, what gets momentum or not. Okay, so let's do some chat requests. Let's start with Sol. So yeah, as I was saying at the beginning of the stream, 2 days ago, I ended up exiting and round tripping fully, not fully, but for half of the position since target 3 at 240, 260. The rest of this position, it's a bit of a fuckery on the daily perspective, in a sense that no clear daily trend. It's been the case ever since we lost things mid-December at the same time as Bitcoin. As you can see, strong trend, lost flip resistance, fill the gaps. Ever since it's been disrespected, this move was fueled off of the entire Trump thing. I lack clarity when I'm watching these charts. The main thing I'm seeing watching Sol is that a retest of the 185-200 region would likely give us some trades, whether it's flip resistance and you have swing short opportunities aiming for the low 100s, which would be a devastating move for Solana in my opinion, while a reclaim of this region opens the door for a longer period of ranging in the 200s. Short term, I have no trades going in Solana. I did not even look at all the time frames. I think it's a bit of a clusterfuck on H1. As we discussed at the beginning of the stream, strong trend, tries to reclaim it, almost fail instantly. This incoming hourly close is going to be key for Solana. But I think the H4 chart might be a little bit more interesting for this one, in the short term at least. You have this surface level over here, soon to be in confluence with 100 MA. Some consolidation, break, flip H1, H4 trend, and you have a gap to chase up until the 185-200 region, which is the key place on daily also. I'm gonna write things down a little bit so that it might be less confusing. I need to remove the... I don't see a clear trade short term for Solana. I think you could play on lower time frame with H1 and these gaps, but if there is anything I would be willing to play is ideally some consolidation here, while the H4 trend continues to catch down. H4 stock resets a little bit. This, I think it's doable as long as Bitcoin stays within the H4 range that we discussed earlier. And at this point, when we get H4 trend catching up more with price being flatter, then we have a shot for this kind of gap fill to chase, where H4 100 MA should be in confluence with these lows at the moment we get an H4 trend more compressed. And ideally you want to start selling in this region, and if we overshoot, you have the opportunity of a gap fill all the way up to H4 200 MA, which in current context could turn into an automatic short also. And obviously, if the market shits the bed, if Bitcoin fails to keep the momentum post New York Open, I think the two main trades I can see on a Solana chart like this is Chop S region short term. Break and flip H4 trend. Trigger or move back to H4 100 MA. Wherever it is, it gets target 1. Classic setup, classic gap fill setup. But yeah, classic gap fill setup. We need to wait for the trigger on that. But this could be doable. And obviously, we have to break down short. Much more aggressive approach. I think doable if Bitcoin starts losing. Yeah, breakdown trade, breakdown short. Doable. If we want to be optimistic and think that Bitcoin is gonna continue to defend the H4 range and stay within this region for the rest of the week, could be doable, especially if SPX doesn't break down. Then I think it's a good way of playing. Have you ever put your account into CMM or TradeStream? CMM, yeah. CMM, yeah. Every time the last time I did it was pretty depressing. Was from the last month of results, but yeah. I usually like to keep track of my trades on a classic old school Excel. But even just for accounting reasons, it's a good tool to use. I feel like all you paid group analysts are just analysts and not real good traders. Well, if you, I mean, yeah, I'm a good analyst. I consider myself a better analyst than trader. I never said the opposite. And you should not be joining the event for my trading perspective. You should be joining the event for my educational skills and analysts. I'm not here to feed you setups. I'm here to discuss setups, possible setups, how I would think about them and how I trade them. You earn 50k, 100k from a month from the paid group. No, I don't earn that. That would be pretty sweet. Hopefully someday, but no. I never pretended to be a chat trader. I said it at the beginning of the stream. I consider myself a representative of the mid-curve trader. I also think I'm a good educator, and that's what I aim to be. And I'm trading for myself, and I'm trading to get better and browse the market and survive. And up until proven otherwise, I've been surviving for the last few years, 7 years now. So I must be doing something right in the end. Do you always write notes? And obviously, there are other profiles. For example, in the Haven, we have chat traders. People are considered more in the sides of talented traders than grinders traders like me. I'm thinking obviously of people like Loma, Krina, who are more gifted than I am, and we can get results in much easier way than I do. But it's fine. I have all the time in the world. Do you always write notes in your charts? Is it helpful to make it actionable? It is. To me, at least, it is. The same way journaling is key for me. As I said at the beginning of the stream, my goal is usually to have setups where it's on paper the most simple setup possible, because I know that the simplest the plan is, the less chances I leave for fucking up execution and for letting my brain in the middle second think things. Because I know that yeah, it's always a constant struggle of having a plan initially, and eventually when it comes to execution, when it's time to execute it, you always find reasons not to, whether it's to take profits on a long, whether it's to trigger a setup. So I try to always keep. There is two reasons I always leave notes on the charts. One, it's because I'm used to share charts publicly. I've been doing so for years, and I think it's a good way to. I think it's just a good way to highlight what you're seeing, what you could do, and it can be interesting. Again, if you're looking for an analysis, as we discussed with FP Holgersson, then it's good content. So it's kind of what I'm used to do, and it's how I'm used to do chart requests, how I'm used to approach charts. And also because I believe it helps me pull the trigger if/when. So yeah, to summarize things on... okay. To summarize things for Solana, for me, no trade zone short term as long as it's in the low printed yesterday, 155, and as long as it can break H4 downtrend. If/when we break H4 downtrend and Bitcoin still sitting in its range, not getting bullied, we have the possibility of a gap fill. I don't know about a gap fill all the way up to H4 200 EMA, but in a few H4 candles from here, we should get H4 100 EMA in confluence with these lows from last week and from early February in plus breakdown level. So that would make a nice confluence to have in terms of upside targets, if we get any upside, obviously. And the second approach is obviously this gets denied, H4 downtrend continuation. And I think I would be fine with an aggressive breakdown short, likely less expectation, but that could be the play. In such setup, the validation, as I said, would be incapacity to flip H4 trend support. What does that mean? To me, it would mean that just like last time we tried to break H4 downtrend, we come for the retest, fail to show strength instantly. It's enough for me to consider that I don't want to participate in that. One of the arguments beside that is that when I'm playing gap fills like this one, it means that I'm counter trending the higher time frame trend, meaning that if on H4 you're willing to catch a gap from trend to 100 MA, you're basically aiming for a daily downtrend retest. So if I'm willing to play that, I'm willing to play a counter trend move. If I don't see all the signs I want and I don't see H4 trend flipped and defended, I'm fine saying, okay, fuck it, I'm just not gonna chase it. What's the point? I know we are in a higher time frame counter trends, so fuck it. I'm just gonna let things unfold and see if/when we get the daily trend retests. What indicator do you use for the H4 trend? So H4 daily, H1 never changes. It's always the same thing. And I'm basically using 35, 25, 32 EMA. This is what I referred to as trend. Maybe it's an overuse of the words. Maybe I believe everyone has its own definition of trend when we talk about trends. For some people, daily 200 EMA is the trend indicator. For me, it's more this simple set of three moving averages. And I'm using 30, 13, 25, 32 because back in the days, and maybe it's still the case, it used to be the default EMA settings on Binance and UOB when I started trading. And I've always kept that, but obviously it doesn't change shit. You can use 10 to 30. The value in itself, doesn't matter much. It's not something that's meant to be peak or precise. It's something that's meant to show you the overall trends. Do not treat it as anything more than that. What indicator I just answered? H4 downtrend are really scary and useful, and UTC can also be used to de-risk before the full downside happens. Yeah, very much. I usually consider that when I'm riding a daily trend, for example, keeping a track of whether we continue to defend 100 MA or 200 EMA on the lower time frame, so on daily watching H4, on H4 watching H1, is a good way to know whether it's a deviation below the trend or not. Do EMA strat work in boomer markets, gold, oil, etc.? Yeah, I believe it works in anything, in any places where we have trending behavior. SPX, I believe, is a very good example of the system. Strong trend, lose the trend, fill the gap to 100 MA, resume the trend, lose the trend, fill the gap to 100 MA, fill the gap to 200 MA, fill the gap to 100 MA, fill the gap to 100 MA, fill the gap to 100 MA. I would even argue that it's even working better in boomer markets because they know their shit when it comes to trending behavior. Or maybe it's just Ponzinomics, but you get the point. Yeah, I would assume it works wherever. It's again, it's really just imaginary lines to see the trend better. It's nothing more than that, obviously. So if there is a place where it's where you have trending behavior, that should work just as well. The XY weekly has always been a very good example of my overall approach. Strong trend, lose the trend, flip it, resistance again, fill the gap to 100 MA, fill the gap to 200 MA. How did you get better at taking profits? If I'm swing longing, as soon as I'm gonna find there are two things that I'm going to make me take profits. We can use my Bitcoin swing as an example if you want. The obvious simple retests of key levels after spending 7 months or more, I think, in this range. Obviously, I wanted to take profit on retest of the previous all-time high / range high. And after that, as I discussed at the beginning of the stream, as soon as I'm starting to see breaks within the trend I've been riding, I start de-risking. So how I got better at taking profits, I think the best answer is PTSD and getting bullied times and times over again by the market by not taking profits, and eventually understanding that I'm an idiot. It's something I almost always say when I'm streaming and I get questions like this. I used to stream with Jim Talbot for some time when he was with us in the Haven. And yeah, he was always saying, if you want to get better, find what you do bad, find where you fuck up, and stop fucking doing it. And it's absurdly simple advice, but it's always stuck in my brain. So yeah, one of the way I would say by being bullied enough to understand that I was an idiot, and by respecting the system with much more discipline, trying to be more disciplined toward the system. If over the past, I've noticed that every time we were losing the trend, we were either retracing, either chop vest. Why would this time be different? Just like every time if moves a little bit, the market shits the bed. Why this time would be different? So yeah, screen time, being an idiot, PTSD, respecting the system more, which I believe is a fairly obvious saying, but yeah, it is actually how it is. I will just write something down over here. Invalidation to be adjusted depending on how H4 trend looks, in the sense that it could be tighter depending on where the H4 trend flips. And usually I have two invalidations. I have a hard stop to which I'm basing my risk, and a manual invalidation depending on how things develop. And this is where there is a little bit of gut feeling involved. And the more I'm trading, the more I'm leaving room for gut feeling, obviously. Okay, I'm gonna try to speed run things. Obviously, the stream's gonna last longer than initially planned because we still have a lot of things to cover. I will also post on Telegram, I believe, all the chat requests we do through the stream. Here's the link if you want to join the Telegram. It's basically just my Twitter page, but without the shit posts. It's just more place for me to discuss market without all the Twitter trash that comes with it, basically. Okay, last thoughts on Sol BTC similarities to ETH BTC. Yeah, I've seen this chart going around lately. The weekly chart mostly. I mean, if we forget the left part of the charts, I still have my I still have the yeah, Well, on a long enough period of time, anyway, all the charts looks the same against Bitcoin, but I can see some differences. One could argue that some people, I think, believe we are here. I think we could argue we are actually here. Uh, it's more, I don't know. I've seen the chart going around. When you see it, it's hard to forget about it. But I don't hold a strong opinion on that. I think it's yeah. I hope for Solana that it doesn't. I hope for Bitcoin and therefore for myself that it happens. But yeah, there is some similarities. There is indeed some similarities. I know that this chart makes members on City lately. I don't even want to watch at the ETH BTC chart. Jesus, man, this is painful to watch. This is painful to watch. If you guys want to discuss rapidly, I think two good focuses to have: daily downtrend, big boss, and on both time frames, by the way, daily downtrend on USDT, on BTC pair. This can be good triggers to have to give ETH a shot if/when they are finally broken. It doesn't mean that it's gonna reverse and it's gonna be magical. We've seen it through the past few weeks and months. Few months actually. We've got some fake outs on daily trend break. Weekly trend being much cleaner in that matter. But if you're looking for potential triggers to decide if you want to be more involved with ETH or not, trying to be patient until at least daily downtrend to be broken, it can be a good trigger. If you remember what we just discussed on the Solana H4 chart about a gap fill setup, waiting for the trend to flatten, to break, and then you aim for 100 MA and eventually 200 MA. You could have a similar approach when it comes to ETH BTC, obviously. Wait for daily downtrend to flatten, and if/when we have an attempt to flip it, you can try to capture a gap fill up to 100 MA, which would be aligned with this fairly simple level. So that could be a potential good trade eventually. Can it happen with Bitcoin staying flat or even Bitcoin pumping? Will it need some narrative, BlackRock ETF stacking or whatever to pull this? Possibly, but I believe it can be a good trigger to have. Once again, exactly like the trigger I mentioned for the possible SOL trade. This can be one of your trigger. Until then, we want to believe that it can do something. I believe it would. I believe the market could use some ETH strength after all the shit show we've got. But yeah, I've been hurt too many times before. Do you think C-Pool? Okay, I will need to take a look at C-Pool. Do you think C-Pool will need more time to go sideways here? It lost the daily 200 EMA, but 3D and weekly 100 EMA is at current level. Kinda reminds me of Sol in some ways, in the sense that that's when I'm seeing a chart like this, the main thing I'm seeing is this pocket over here, confluence of daily downtrend, daily 200 EMA plus a fairly obvious horizontal level. Resistance first, blast through it, print a giga move, come for the retest, gets defended for some time, lose it, flip it, resistance. I don't know about some sideway from here. All I know is that in terms of trading opportunities, the main thing I'm seeing is any retest of this region gives a trade, whether it's retested and lost and rejected, whether it's reclaimed, in which case you have a gap fill to 100 MA to capture. One could argue that you could give this a long, but uh, as we discussed at the beginning of the stream, I would personally not go for something like that because I would not know where I want to place my stops. And I don't know where I would place stops I would be trusting. So when I'm looking at a chart like Sipool right now, main thing I'm seeing is I probably don't want to participate in any of that, but I'm gonna set some alerts in this region because a retest of this confluence could deliver some trades. Whether it's this gap fill should be slightly lower eventually, but you get my point. But do I feel like if the daily trend was here and price action just did that, I would expect that we chop best in this region for some time. But for now, because it's in the same daily downtrend basically since the top outside of this deviation, the main thing I'm assuming is downtrend continuation. And trading and trades wise, the main place of interest for me would be this region. So that's a question in French, but I'm gonna translate it in English. Basically, the question asks if I'm using BTC behavior to decide which direction and how I want to trade alts, basically. Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, whether Bitcoin is going to be uptrending, consolidating, downtrending is going to affect how I'm trading alts and if I'm trading alts. And it's a good question because it's actually something that I would consider being the main thing I need to work on trading wise. Not necessarily using Bitcoin as a proxy to know if and which direction I want to trade, but for example, one of the things I did very well over the past few months and years, since 2022, I would say 2021, is understanding very rapidly when I don't want to participate and not be as aggressively longing as I can do when Bitcoin is in strong daily uptrend, for example, and when it's splitting legs. But what I've did badly, for example, for the last month or so, and I don't know if it's laziness, if it's complacency, if it's a mix of both. But what I did not do great is just being satisfied of not being chopped out and of stopping to longs alts at good times, but not necessarily trying to make the best out of the reversals. What I'm trying to say by that, and maybe Popcat, if I still have the chart, is a good example of that. Yeah, you can see all my trades on Popcat end of last year, second semester. I basically stopped trading it at the top, but in the same time, so you could say, yeah, nice, happy for you, good decision making. But in the same time, I missed all the downtrend, which has been even cleaner than all the uptrends, and no excuses because you have places where you can actually short that thing. So I'm deviating a little bit from the initial question, but yes, obviously my analysis on Bitcoin and how I feel towards Bitcoin has a strong impact on if and how I'm willing to trade alts, what I want to focus more in the market, if I'm more leaning towards looking for isolated strength, if I'm more leaning towards mostly shorting shit. But it's something I need to do more, or at least that I need to apply more. But yeah, obviously my read on Bitcoin affects my trading on shitcoins, and Bitcoin sideways is a good decision maker for me to chase H4 downtrends in shitcoins. But obviously, as I just showed with the Popcat example, I need to work on that for it to be more automatic. So yeah, that's the idea. So yes, and buy. It's something I do a lot, but that I should do better and with a more automatic, systemic way, I should say. Yo, thank you for sharing, my friend. I stopped trading during 2022, and unfortunately, I had to exit the event. But you were always my favorite mentor. Keep doing these streams. You are the best. Thank you very much, Lalo Vargas. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Well, uh, if I somehow helped you at some point and you enjoyed my content, I'm very happy with that. And yeah, trying to make the streams public for that reason also. Uh, okay. I appear a bit late, but thank you so much for doing the stream. With pleasure. As I said at the beginning of the stream, my goal is to do that once per month at the very least, and in when slash if market conditions are particularly interesting, we could do that more often than just once per month. Could be joined by other Avan analysts, could be joined by some guests from City. Everything's opened. Everything's opened. How strictly do you follow your system? How much discretion do you allow yourself? As I said through the stream, I try to follow my system, respect my system as much as possible, especially when it comes to invalidations. But the more I trade, the more I spend time in the market, and I would say even more in recent market conditions that are heavily news driven and were very unforgivable. The more this comes, the more I know that the more I leave space for gut feeling, basically, and therefore discretion. But I still try to have a balance between, and especially, for example, after we had some very strong moves, whether it's up or down, I try to respect the system as much as possible and not let, because sometimes, as much as my gut feeling has saved my ass a few times, my system has saved my ass much more often than my gut feeling. And this is where I draw the line between grinders like myself, mid-cap traders, and more talented traders like Loma, etc. Nexus, Loma, all these type of lads. So obviously there is some room for gut feeling, and it's necessary. It's trading in the end of the day, and it's only imaginary lines on a chart. But there is still a lot of room for the system to play out. Okay, continue. Let's continue the chat requests. It's gonna be very rapid in my opinion, as I discussed it during the stream. Try to trade it a little bit during that chop fest, but when I got weaked out on the Monday crash earlier in the month, I decided, okay, I got bullied enough. It's not showing any sign of trending behavior. We have all the set of moving arrow edges, all flat. Daily trend not particularly respected neither. As you can see, it's flat in the middle. It's reclaimed, lost, reclaimed. You get it. That is the opposite of trending behavior. So for me, my game plan, and I'm gonna show you some in the Aven rapidly, but basically in my trading section, you can see on hype, I've had this hype dedicated thread. So that's how I operate in the Aven. Basically, I have a trade ID section which is separated in dedicated threads. I've got this opened since January 2025, and for all this time, I've basically been waiting to see some H4 trend behavior, and ever since I got this invalidated. I've still been waited. For me, there are two main things for hype upsides: is finally managing to flip that 27-28 region. It's complicated to make a level as clear as that, to be honest. Strong rejection, failure to flip it, rejection. So the two triggers I could have to put the trigger on a hype long at this point would be either finally some H4 trend that gets defended for longer than a day, but ideally both. 20 acceptance above 27-28, even if that means an initial spike to target one without me. But then anything that comes in the retest of this region is a long for me. So I've been extremely patient, not patient enough, obviously, because otherwise I would have not been stopped out on this trade, even if it gave target one a couple of times. But I'm trying to stay patient, wait for it to unfold, and eventually I would love to ride it all the way up to the prophecy week in the 40s. So no position, no new trades, I should say more. No new trades on hype It's been the same plan I've had for weeks now, and I'm trying to be patient. Almost FOMO the last week when we started to close this to print that H4 candle in the 28th. But I just looked back to everything that I was discussing in my dedicated thread, and I was like, okay, stop being an idiot. You're gonna miss, even if that's finally the moment it starts printing a trend. You're going to basically at this point, I don't care much if I'm missing the first leg initially outside of the range, as long as it then prints an H4 trend that we can play with, and it did it initially, so hopefully it can do it again. But yeah, that's the overall plan, and yeah, fuck you, maybe I should remove that. Any downside long trigger on hype? I would assume that you wanted to say any downside short trigger. I would say exact same thing as for the upside, in a sense that if we start seeing H4 trend defended, and this has not been the case much in any downside move, then this can be a trigger. Otherwise, well, this is just the other side of the range. Maybe a little bit more complicated. Do you want to go all the way down to 18? But that's a fucking wide range. It's a 40% wide range, so it's likely not a good trigger to have, but maybe the lows printed initially, and in which case your main target is indeed aiming for the 1918 region. So maybe seeing it more as these lows that you want to see defended, and if lost, you can try aim for this region. So the combination of H4 trend defended plus lows printed since early February lost, and in that case you have an argument for this gap fill, at least. I would also assume that if that happens, we have Bitcoin in the low 90s in parallel, but we'll see. So conclusion for hype for me is no trade ongoing and no trigger until we can either exit the 27-22 range and or finally print a defended H4 trend, because there is a world where we just continue to do that. And I don't want to participate in that, obviously, because I'm gonna get absolutely butchered if I'm trying to trade that. CVX. Jesus. What was the question regarding? Oh, I have another question from Mbai. How did you resolve your short BAs? I'm always looking for long, but if my ID is invalidated, I have difficulties flipping short. Yeah, as I said, as I showed with the Popcat example, it is also something that I think I should do better and should work on. Alt E, inverse the chart. Maybe this can help. Genuinely, I think this can help. Otherwise, I don't know. If I would say if you're journaling your trades, try to leave a room after the trade has been stopped or invalidated for a column saying what happened next, basically. And maybe over time you will realize that not only your invalidations were good invalidations for your long and or short, but if you had a more automatic flip side, that could play out. My main struggle with flipping BAs too rapidly is that when I do so, I always feel like I'm revenge trading. And I've been wrecked many times revenge trading, so it's always a mix of that. Like, but over time, I think over time I believe that I would have made more money flipping BAs rapidly after invalidation than the opposite. But journaling likely going to help, because I feel like it's a comportment thing to change. MBI, and in my experience, to help changing a behavior, the best way to do so is being wrecked and journaling things and reading yourself doing mistakes realizing you don't want to do them anymore. What was the question for CVX? CVX downtrend should keep going. There is no should in markets. There is no should. Could it? Could it? Yeah, it could 100%. Should it? I don't know, but it's been a fairly strong daily downtrend. Looks like chop fest to me more than anything on lower time frame with a fairly clean range. Chop fest, why? Simply because once again H4 trend disrespected. So my main assumption watching these charts, as long as Bitcoin is still in its range, is basically that. Can't you do that anymore? Would not be surprised if we see any of that. H4 200 EMA catching down. You have a trade to catch on the outside if/when. Otherwise, you have a breakdown trade to checks. But yeah, basically, no, when I'm seeing something that looks like this on H4, to me it screams don't even bother. Obviously, you have the potential gap fill over here, but I don't want to trade that. So for your question, should the downtrend continue? Again, there is no should, but if we stick strictly to the system, as long as price is below daily downtrend, I'm expecting daily downtrend to be respected. The same way that as long as price is above trend, I'm expecting trend to be respected. As simple as that. Let me take a quick look at OM. It's one of the very few positions that I have running recently. Opened it on stream yesterday. And that answers what was the question earlier. Timothy, as you can see, I almost always have writing on the charts. I want to discuss this setup rapidly because it's one of the 101 of setups I take. If you've been following me for some time in Twitter over the years, it's probably something that you recognize. And it's something that I've discussed a lot on CT over the years. It's what I usually call the ideal H4 trend development. And basically it's a combination of chasing the confluence of an horizontal level defended. This is the one. This was the one. This was the one. Trend catching up with price and tightening, flippening. That's number 2. And 3, stock resetting from overbought to oversold. Meaning that you have the confluence of a simple horizontal level, which gonna help you for your invalidation, in my opinion. Trend, if the combination of both is still defended, have to consider upside territories, upside scenario, and stock resetting is just a way to identify a reset in momentum. And for me, when something goes from overbought to oversold while still defending simple horizontal level plus trend, I'm expecting a leg up. And usually this kind of setups goes such as, these are my 3 main conditions. When these conditions are respected, I'm bidding the confluence of horizontal level plus trend. My most obvious target is always a retest of the localize. Depending on how much risk I'm willing to play, I'm gonna be paying myself less or more depending on the retest. And one of the reasons I wanted to discuss this one is because that's basically the 3rd time that I'm taking the same trade on OM. I got initially bullied. Classic OM style, chops for longer, fuck you around, printed turbo weak, impulse, did the same. But it's been a very interesting shitcoin to trade for me because it reminds me, and that gives me a transition to XRP after. It reminds me of, I'm gonna sound like a fucking boomer, but it reminds me a lot of how shitcoins used to move more back in the days. What I'm meaning by that is more isolated trends, isolated strength to ride. And so yeah, I'm giving this a 3rd shot. It went for my target 1 region earlier today, but it didn't fill any of my orders. So I'm still hoping that Bitcoin behaves and I get to take some off in this region, 7.7, 7.9. But yeah, as you can see also, size slash risk, it's something that I treat more as a scalp than a swing, size wise, risk wise, and I'm still in conditions where I'm trying not to get bullied, so I trade with less risk. But this is once again, yeah, more something that I shared in my scalp section, for example. But yeah, wanted to show that because I think it's an interesting setup. It's something very mechanical that you can chase. And as I told you at the beginning of the stream, I usually like to chase EMA compressions. And for trend following these setups, this is usually how they look like for me in terms of what I'm looking for and what trigger I have. But yeah, I believe it's a good one because it's something I can replicate and chase pretty mechanically, basically. And actually, my main trade on XRP from last year was the exact same thing. As you can see, it's extremely similar to the OM trades. Extremely similar to the OM trades. Miss the initial impulse, wait for a base to form, trend to catch up, stock to reset, trigger the moves. And yeah, XRP was pretty much just that last year, end of last year, with a turbo banger to finish the year. I've been trading XRP a lot. But vastly less recently. I think my last trade on XRP was a short actually. I ended up front running my target too. But yeah, anyway, XRP, some thoughts. Actually, one of the still decent looking shitcoin charts. It has benefited from the ETF news lately, if I'm not mistaken. I think the word used was that they were acknowledged by the SEC, whatever that means. But I've not been trading it a lot lately. Main argument being daily trend being disrespected, and that I've missed this move again early February. I missed the entire shit show. Now, what do I think about it? It's a bit of a tricky question. I don't see an obvious trade right now on H4. I think earlier today, maybe these three tests, confluence of previous resistance plus H4 100 MA could have been a long. I don't know if I would have went for it, mostly because no big gaps to chase above. But that could have been a low for some time. Or at the very least, if it's not a low, it's a good signal in the sense that if you're bullish XRP short term, it has zero business coming back below that short term. You want to see it. You want to see it flip back this level, at very least. You then have this obvious horizontal level again. Yeah, I think the main picture if you're trading XRP short term is basically okay. And must break slash flip. So I think, so let's map out where daily 100 MA is. The main gaps of interest for me are these one. They are not necessarily the biggest gap to chase. I don't think they're going to be the easiest one to capture. And it's a wide range in between. It's a 10% range. So maybe after some time we could have some clearer business in this region. But short term, I think if you're bullish, you don't want to see today's low lost because that would basically mean H4 100 MA failure to flip plus failure to flip what's been previously a clean support resistance level, support resistance flip. Yeah, that's the main idea when it comes to XRP. Okay. I'm gonna check FTM. And I need to speedrun things a little bit because, yeah. Okay. FTM. You're confident in your trade and enter after getting stop outs. Yeah, I think that was a comment from when we were discussing revenge trading. FTM, it's not gonna work, right? I need to type Sonic now. Very interesting. Very interesting. Andre doing some stuff on his newly charts using the oldest streak in the book, which is starting from scratch with a new chart. I can't believe that this still works. This is usually more a trick from the Polygon team, but yeah, that was a very good H4 trend. You see, probably was a mistake on my hand not to even have Sonic on the chart. I would have noticed this before. This retest and this retest particularly were very good opportunities, very good trade to catch. Some pretty clean H4 trend plus H4 200 EMA retests. Was FTM a good setup in your opinion? If you manage to count that move off of H4 trends and use the listing price as a target, I think it was a fantastic trade and you did extremely well if you managed to count that. I personally 100% missed it. But I would guess next trade we're gonna be based whether we defend H4 trend or not. If we use the 101 / ideal H4 trend setup that I discussed earlier, what you ideally want to see, I think. H4 trend catching up with price and tightening, flipping support, H4 stock resetting. If you get the combination of all of that, you have a setup for continuation. Could be something. I'm gonna set some alerts in this region in case it comes for the retests. But yeah, could be a setup. Should precise, but okay. Worth keeping an eye on it. But once again, as I showed with the OM example, it's basically once again the same approach where you want to see a fairly obvious horizontal level plus trend flip support, stock reset, and then it's the exact same setup just applied to something else. This is, yeah. And obviously you could just keep pushing and eventually this setup applies but higher. But at current levels of H4 trend, this would be how the setup looks like. Let's do LTC. Which has been doing fairly great recently, more than fairly great actually. It's been doing good, especially considering the state of the market. Is it fueled also by some ETF rumors or not? Okay, possibly. In any case, it's been strong and it's now back once again with the same resistance that it's been fighting with since early December. It's now the fifth try, something like this. Yeah, fourth try, fifth, depending on how you count them. But basically, we are back with fighting with the same level. I would obviously not rush into a position in this region. And looking at H4, I would not work on H4 time frame. Very flat still, but the daily could deliver something nice. A daily trend that continues to curve up like this, and we either get some compression between daily trend and resistance, could deliver a setup. Otherwise, a break through this resistance, any retests of confluence of daily trend could deliver. In the end, I think it would be a fairly similar setup, something that looks like this. But whether you enter it on a breakout into retests, whether you enter it after a compression, in any case, your invalidation is on the loss of daily trend again. Usually when I see that, what I do is I put some alerts way above the range. If it's triggered, I wait for the daily close, see how it closes, and decide whether I want to place bids or not. I'm gonna set some at the daily trend region also, after the retest we got 2 days ago. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's at key resistance on daily time frame. It's been the same level for months now, 2 months, more than 2 months. To me, when I'm watching a chart like this, to me the main / automatic setup I have in mind, and probably too ideal in the sense that this is how the ideal setup would look like, but it could very well just break out and never come for the retest. If that's the case, my goal would probably be to go into H4 and chase for some H4 trend retests, and or simply wait for daily trend retests, because it will give daily trend retests. But this is how the ideal setup would look like. We'll see. Setting some alerts and we'll see what triggers. In any case, main conclusion looking at it is obvious main fight with key resistance. Same one we've been in for ages. I would guess that if you browse CT for long enough, you should find someone printing this as a triangle. So it looks, it's been looking strong, relatively strong compared to the rest of the market, compared to other shitcoins. But it's at resistance. And yeah, this is how the ideal setup would look like. Will I end up taking exactly this, or will I have to take something more aggressive on the upside if slash when we get a breakout? Are we in conditions where we could expect Litecoin to start to move by itself? A lot of questions. In the end, what matters is that it's at key obvious resistance on daily perspective. It's a key slash obvious must break. So for now, basically, I don't have a trade right now, so I'm just gonna stick to these main thoughts, and we'll see how it unfolds. Are you gonna leave the stream up so we can rewatch it? Yeah, it's gonna be on this YouTube channel. It's gonna be available. I will double check to be sure. Okay, let's take a quick look at what's Bitcoin been doing while I've been yapping all this time. I don't want to jinx it, but screaming more and more like Chopfest continuation to me, as long as we don't have an external news coming to seppuku us, but it looks more and more like Chopfest to me. What would be your advice for someone who raked his sports minus 90% the last 3 months? Find another hobby. But more seriously, this is a complicated situation to be in, obviously, and I think many of us have been in that situation before. The most simple piece of advice you could get, to me at least, is obviously to take a step back, maybe leave the market do its thing for a couple of days, weeks, months. You obviously need some fresher view. You obviously need to make some changes. You obviously need to adjust things, because whatever you've been doing, at least for the last 3 months, has obviously not been working. So yeah, take a step back, maybe start journaling. I know that it sounds like an extremely obvious advice, and that a lot of people are always saying that, but it truly helps. It truly helps. I know a lot of people who don't need to journal, who find it useless or don't have the discipline to do so. And you don't have to journal things extremely precisely. You don't have to write down everything that goes through your mind through the day. But writing down things, and especially things especially at the end of the day, things you've noticed you're doing wrong, writing down things helps fixing them. It makes them real. It confronts you to what you're doing wrong. And it's the first step to stop fucking doing what you're doing wrong. So yeah, I would guess it can be a first help. I'm not saying it's gonna fix all your problem, obviously, but it could be a first help. Obviously, start reducing your trading frequency. Whoever you've been feeding your thoughts with, stop following them and focus on trading. Focus on learning how to trade. This is if you lost 90% of your folio in 3 months, it may as well be a costly mistake, but something you learn from than just repeating the pattern you've been doing. Reduce trading frequency, reduce risk per trade. Don't try to make it all back. You're likely gonna wreck yourself a second time, especially if you don't change anything you've been doing. That should be a good start. Zoom out, spend less time on pump.fun. I've been trading for 6 months and never journal. Could you show an example of how your journal looks? I'm not a big fan of showing my personal journal, but as someone who's in the Haven, who's an analyst in the Haven, and who has been sharing content publicly for years, I argue that I am public journaling, especially in the Haven. I use the Haven as my public journal, basically. Less so Twitter nowadays, but used to. But maybe we can do a stream some days where we discuss journaling in more details. Invite someone else and compare the way we journal and what we think can be the benefits. That could be an interesting stream to do. I would need to find someone that I know has different opinion than me on that, and we could debate it. That could be interesting, while showing examples of journals. Uh, I know that I know that some people like to open some discords just for themselves. They are the only one in the discord, and they organize it with sections, make a library of the trades they take. They find it. I think it can be a good alternative to the usual Excel basically. But yeah, for me, my public journal is my channels in the Haven market analysis peer, where every day I try to discuss my main point of view, my main things. Uh, but yeah, that's just me. That's just me. But that could be a very interesting topic for trade for streams eventually. Writing thing down, good potential idea, Nasser. Okay, it's been 1 hour and 40 minutes, so I'm gonna do two last chat requests, and then I will shut the stream off. Was meant to be only a 1 hour stream, but for people who have been in the Haven at some point, you know that whatever I'm saying, every time I say I'm only going to do one stream, uh, yeah, it always lasts 2 hours. It always lasts 2 hours. Okay, okay. Did you do Pepe? No, but I already need to do it. It's between these five. I'm not gonna do Eve. We can discuss it rapidly if you want, but I think the point of view is pretty straightforward. If you've been following the stream since the beginning, you should see that this could have been a gap fill setup earlier this week on Monday when it started to break through it, but then it failed to flip everything. So that's a chart from Monday, and the idea was fail to flip this blue region, confluence of H4 trend and H4 100 MA. Chop fest continuation to me, because H4 trend disrespected, H4 100 MA disrespected, could still eventually find the strength to fill that gap all the way to H4 200 MA, especially in confluence with the post bounce level on any news that could help if eventually. But until then, the main things I'm seeing is daily downtrend, clear daily downtrend on both pairs, USDT and BTC pairs, and H4 trend disrespected within a. So yeah, very much the same conclusion than for Bitcoin on H4 to me, at least. One could argue it could be slightly cleaner in terms of short-term trade to chase, mostly because of that gap fill, which is non-existent, less existent on Bitcoin. It's much smaller. But yeah, to me, this looks like Chopfest. Which makes me think, let's take a look at Lido, especially considering that there have been some, well, that's a wide range. There have been some stacking news, so you should be expecting any stacking related news to benefit liquid stacking projects, but we cannot say it's been particularly true. To me, Lido is among those coins that I've blacklisted a while ago. Uh, mostly because I got bullied a lot, and it just trades like shit. Not gonna lie, it's a nightmare. But yeah, I I I guess one could argue that it's a key region to defend, considering previous interaction with the level. I think you can even draw it all the way back to when it got listed. It's been a major pivot. It's been a major pivot for years now on Nido. So I guess it's an interesting level to watch, especially with potential news regarding stacking, but kind of feel like you would ideally want to start seeing it trade back above the $2 region, I believe it was 1.8 $2. I don't even want to look at the chart. I guess main conclusion could be that it's in a key place to defend, but we've already deviated below, meaning that as much as I believe it's a key place to defend, I cannot justify a setup, mostly because the invalidation is way too wide with some weeks that could be revisited instantly. So as much as I think this is a place we want to see defended, I would struggle too much placing my stops on something like this, or at least having stops that I can and trust that I know that I will respect. So as I said through the stream, one of my approach is if it's an invalidation I know I won't trust, I usually just decide not to trade, because I just know that I'm increasing the chances that even if the setup in itself is a good idea, even if I'm increasing the chances of fucking things up during the execution way too much. Way too much. So Lido's shit. TIO actually has been strong lately, but I think it's okay. It's been a while I did not charted it, but I think it's fairly still the same idea for me. At least it's the same gaps of interest for the upsides. I didn't even notice that this week got filled on the early month. Wow, this was a great buy. This is something I should try to do more often also. Set some very stink bids on vastly reduced size. If it gets filled, you have some time to pray that you had time to exit if it was a bad idea, and if it fills and it bounces, that's a very strong basis to work with. The analysis has not changed much, at least not on the daily perspective. So okay, that's for the daily. Let's take a look at H4. Maybe we can find something. On lower time frames, it's getting back to resistance plus H4 300 MA confluence. I remember trading that. So it's likely not the best place to FOMO. Obviously, it's a must break level. Let me check something. That's the main outcome for me. I don't see an obvious setup short term. What I'm seeing is key levels to fight for, key region to fight for. And I think that if it manages to break through 420, 430, all above it, we have a retest. We have a potential for a retest of those highs plus daily 100 MA confluence. It's not much. It would be catching a late move, considering that it was at 200s a couple of weeks ago. But that would still be a 50% move to capture. So that could be an interesting setup / continuation to chase. But short term, and it's at resistance. It kind of reminds me of Fleetcoin that we discussed earlier. It reminds me of Bitcoin that we discussed, that is at a place that needs to break and that could deliver some nice trades, but I can't at least possibly FOMO in this region. I know how I would be willing to trade if we get some breakout and continuation, but at current levels, if you're the only thing that I would execute right now if I was long on that would be paying myself. Le bonsoir de Lyon. I am in Lyon right now. February, stop of the ski season, means that I'm back in the capitale des Gaules. Not for long though, but for now it's been like this. Okay, last one. Let's take a look at TRX, but mostly because I know it's going to be very rapid, because it's been the same analysis for me on TRX since January 2023. And it's the thesis for TRX is as simple as buy every weekly 32 EMA retests until it doesn't work anymore. That's been the thesis for TRX. It's been the same weekly trend. Okay, so that's from previous streams, obviously. But yeah, I'm buying any retest of daily trends until it doesn't work anymore. It's been the same weekly trend since January 2023. Never lost it once. Still, I'm suspecting Justin to be a imaginary line maximalist. And this is how the setup would look like. You might want to be slightly more aggressive. You obviously want to size small. We are talking about a potential 15% invalidation. You need to adjust your risk accordingly. Obviously, I'm not even saying it anymore, but should be fairly obvious. I'm tired of listening to the same music again and again. Yeah. That's my main thoughts when it comes to TRX. I would not even look at any other time frame than this one. It's just stick to the weekly. Buy when you get a weekly trend retest. Get the fuck out when it doesn't work anymore. You can give yourself a little bit more space in terms of invalidation in case it weaks below, as it did a few times in the past. You might want to give yourself some space, meaning that you might not necessarily want to full size on the first retest here, but place some bids in that entire region. If they are filled, you lower your average entry, reduce the overall risk. If they are not all filled, you're aiming for at least a 40% move. So if you're not full port on it, should be fine nonetheless. That's my main view on TRX. It's been the same view on TRX for a year now. Okay, and you know what? Because there is only one that I have not done, may as well do it, and it's gonna be extremely rapid. The question was, is this thing on your watch list? No, it's not. Does it look like something I'm willing to trade? Absolutely not. In terms of trading opportunities, same thing as we discussed through the stream. Main thing I'm seeing is daily downtrend. Until it's broken, expecting daily downtrend continuation. If/when it's broken, gut feel opportunities. Other than that, not interested. Not interested. Okay. Sheesh, that chart. Yeah. Yeah. But there is worse than that. There is infinitely worse than that. Have I been stopped through the stream? No. Can I ask the market gods to give me my target one tonight before the Champions League? Please, yes. Okay. Well, that's gonna be it for this first pre-week stream. It ended up being 2 hours instead of one, but I think it was interesting. I think we discussed a lot of things. I kind of treated this stream as if it was an Aven stream, meaning that maybe I went too fast on some things, and maybe I assumed people know my system too much. So if you have any questions that you didn't ask through the stream and you want me to read, don't hesitate to send me a message on Twitter. I try my best to look at them, even if they are flooded with marketing shit. But I try to do so. Otherwise, maybe just ask the question below my post on Twitter. It's a better way for me to see them than DMs, actually. If you're interested, obviously it's my stream, so I can chill whatever I want. If you're interested, if you feel like you could have some things to learn from my system, or that's something that could interest you, obviously you can always join the Aven if you want. You can either join the regular one, meaning that you have access to the Discord. Otherwise, we've had a new offer lately where it's mostly accessing our educational content from each analyst without access to the Discord, but you have access to all the educational content analyst per analyst, if that's something that can interest you. Same thing. Don't hesitate to check on my pages. In any case, you also have my Telegram. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, thanks for everyone who joined. It was a great first stream. Again, we're gonna try to do some more at least once per month, and we'll see. We'll see for next time. So thanks again for joining. See you guys on CT. See you guys on the Aven for people who are in the Aven. See you guys on the chat for next stream. Cheers.